After and his wife passed away, many expected the release of their final will to bring closure. Instead, it ignited a firestorm no one was prepared for. What should have been a private moment of mourning quickly turned into outrage, disbelief, and a legal battle that has now spilled into the public eye. The shock came from one central detail. According to documents that began circulating online, Nick Reiner, the couple's son who had long been described by those close to the family as troubled and unpredictable, was allegedly designated to receive the largest share of the estate, reportedly valued at around $200 million. Insiders claim the decision was rooted in Rob and Michelle's deep concern for Nick's long-term stability and care. But that explanation only raised more questions. Under California law, there is a rule known as the Slayer Statute, designed to prevent anyone who intentionally causes the death of another person from inheriting from them. Normally, that law is clear-cut. If someone is found responsible, they are treated as if they predeceased the victim and receive nothing, no matter what a will says. So how could Nick still be positioned to inherit? Legal analysts point to a controversial and deeply unsettling possibility. The statute only applies if intent can be proven. If a court were to accept an argument that Nick lacked mental capacity at the time of the incident, the statute might not apply at all. That single legal distinction has become the center of a growing public uproar. What makes the situation even more explosive is timing. Some have begun asking whether Nick was aware of the will's contents beforehand, and whether that knowledge played any role in later events. There is no proof of this, but the question alone has fueled intense speculation. Meanwhile, Nick's siblings Romy Reiner and Jake Reiner have not remained silent. Reports indicate they are actively pursuing legal action, challenging both the distribution of the estate and the circumstances under which the will was drafted. They have also raised objections regarding Tracy Reiner, Rob's adopted daughter, questioning her share, an argument that has only deepened the family divide. The tragedy itself began on December 14, 2025, when Rob and Michelle were found deceased in their Brentwood home. Police responded quickly, and within hours it was reported that Nick had been taken into custody in connection with the investigation. The news stunned Hollywood and left fans around the world reeling. Now, the focus has shifted from grief to law. A California estate attorney explained that the Slayer statute does not even require a criminal conviction. A civil court could enforce it if they believe there is a greater than 50% likelihood of intentional wrongdoing. Yet the mental competency question looms large and could change everything. What has truly intensified public anger, however, is the reported contents of Rob Reiner's final will. Allegedly written 2 years before his death, it did more than divide assets. It divided a family and ignited a national debate about justice, accountability, and whether the law is prepared for a case this complex. As the legal battle unfolds, one question continues to echo louder than all others. Did Rob Reiner's final wishes protect his most vulnerable child, or unknowingly set the stage for chaos no one could control? That massive portion of the estate, reportedly around $140 million, immediately became the epicenter of outrage and debate. According to documents circulating online, Nick Reiner was allegedly positioned to inherit not only cash assets, but something far more powerful: ownership interests tied to Rob Reiner's creative legacy. That reportedly included rights connected to films produced under Castle Rock Entertainment, with titles often cited such as When Harry Met Sally, The Princess Bride, A Few Good Men, and even ongoing revenue streams linked to Seinfeld. If accurate, the value of those rights alone would extend far beyond traditional inheritance. It would mean control over decades of cultural history. Adding another layer of shock, Nick was also said to inherit the family's Brentwood mansion, a New England-style home valued between $10 and $13 million. The same home that later became central to a devastating investigation. For many observers, that detail felt almost unbearable. Public reaction split instantly. Some believed Rob Reiner may have sensed his time was limited and acted out of urgency, wanting to secure his most vulnerable child's future at all costs. Others viewed the decision as a tragic example of parental devotion overriding years of concern and warning signs. Either way, the will no longer felt like a legal document. It felt like an emotional confession. The remainder of the estate was reportedly divided far more modestly. Around 20%, estimated near $40 million, was said to be allocated to Tracy Reiner, Rob's eldest daughter from his first marriage. The remaining 10% was allegedly split between Romy and Jake Reiner, leaving them with significantly smaller shares. What intensified emotions even further was a handwritten note said to accompany the will. Brief, but deeply personal. In it, Rob reportedly expressed his belief that each child had a different path, and that Nick would need the most help to find his. For many who read it, those words painted a picture of a father driven not by favoritism, but by fear. Friends of the family have long described Rob and Michelle as deeply involved in supporting Nick through years of instability, career setbacks, addiction struggles, and periods of severe hardship. According to those accounts, Rob's greatest fear wasn't losing money. It was losing his son. From that perspective, the decision to leave Nick the largest share wasn't about reward, it was about protection. Rob reportedly believed that financial stability, property, and legacy might offer Nick one last chance to rebuild. But intentions don't erase consequences. What Rob may have seen as a lifeline has now become the spark for one of Hollywood's most painful family conflicts. Psychologists commenting on the situation have cautioned that love without boundaries, especially when paired with repeated rescue, can unintentionally reinforce destructive patterns. The question now haunting the public isn't just about money. It's whether Rob Reiner's final act of love was a safeguard for his son or a decision that unknowingly set the stage for irreversible damage. The perspective was haunting. As public reaction grew, a painful question took center stage. Had Rob Reiner's relentless attempts to save Nick unintentionally led to his own undoing? Sympathy began shifting rapidly toward Jake and Romy Reiner, the two siblings known for living quietly outside the spotlight. They had never chased fame, never relied on family money, and now found themselves pulled into a scandal they neither created nor wanted. Many observers saw them as collateral damage, children overshadowed by a father's desperate devotion to one son. Online, one viral post captured the mood perfectly. Sometimes love without limits can be more dangerous than hate. That line spread fast, summing up the grief, anger, and disbelief surrounding the will. When the will was formally read on December 19, 2025, Jake Reiner was in Houston. At noon, an email from the estate management office landed in his inbox. As he scrolled, his hands reportedly began to shake. 70% allocated to Nick, 5% to him. According to sources close to Jake, he whispered, "This can't be real." His father had always promised fairness. Within hours, Jake canceled his plans, booked the first flight to Los Angeles, and returned determined to fight. That same night, he reportedly went straight to Lyons & Associates, the elite firm long associated with the Reiner family trust. Inside the glass-lined offices, Jake demanded an emergency meeting. Attorney Teresa Lyons, a veteran of high-profile estate disputes, met him privately. She reportedly told him that while Rob's intent appeared rooted in concern for Nick, everything could change depending on the outcome of the criminal case. The Slayer statute, she explained, could ultimately void Nick's inheritance, but only if specific legal thresholds were met. Jake wasn't satisfied. According to those present, he insisted on immediate action to freeze the estate. Within hours, powerhouse litigator Mark Jericho was brought in. The strategy was clear: challenge the will's reasonableness and argue that Nick's alleged actions should bar him from receiving anything until the courts ruled. The following morning, Jake and Romy sat with their legal team, staring at a folder labeled Reiner Estate. Seeing Nick's allocation in writing reportedly left Romy in tears. She questioned not only Nick's share, but also the portion left to Tracy Reiner, Rob's legally adopted daughter. Their attorneys cautioned them carefully. Under California law, adoption grants equal standing. Challenging Tracy's share would require proving Rob lacked capacity or was improperly influenced. An uphill battle. Still, emotions were raw. Jake and Romy agreed on one thing: nothing could move forward without a fight. And just as tensions peaked, another twist broke. Tracy Reiner, learning of the challenge, made it clear she would not step aside quietly. What began as a will dispute was now a full-scale family war, one that Hollywood couldn't ignore. Tracy Reiner didn't hesitate. Within hours of learning that her siblings planned to challenge the will, she assembled her own high-powered legal team, determined to defend the 20% share left to her. To Tracy, this wasn't just about money. It was about legitimacy, loyalty, and years of standing beside her parents when the family was quietly unraveling. Through her attorneys, Tracy argued that as Rob Reiner's legally adopted daughter, she held the same rights as any biological child under California law. She also emphasized her role as a stabilizing presence in the family, someone who helped manage tensions, supported her parents through difficult years, and tried to keep the siblings connected when cracks began to show. To lead her case, Tracy retained David O. Carter, a respected inheritance attorney known for handling elite Hollywood estate disputes. Within hours, Carter issued a firm legal notice to the lawyers representing Jake and Romy. The message was unmistakable. Any attempt to strip Tracy of her inheritance would be met with aggressive legal resistance. The letter made headlines almost instantly. Carter acknowledged that Nick Reiner's portion could be subject to freezing due to his legal situation, but he made it clear that Tracy's share was not up for debate. Ms. Reiner possesses the same lawful rights as any heir, the letter stated. Any effort to exclude her will be challenged in full. What had begun as a dispute between siblings now exploded into a three-sided legal war. Court filings multiplied. Strategy meetings ran late into the night. Reporters camped outside downtown Los Angeles courthouses, waiting for the next development. Public opinion fractured. Some rallied behind Jake and Romy, calling the will deeply unfair. Others defended Tracy, pointing out her years of loyalty and care when the family was under strain. Amid the chaos, those who knew Rob and Michelle Reiner best expressed quiet heartbreak. Friends said the couple had always valued unity over wealth. Rob, despite his demanding career, was known as a deeply involved father, guiding, listening, showing up no matter how busy life became. Both Rob and Michelle had poured extraordinary effort into supporting all their children, especially Nick, through years of instability. Their love was constant, patient, and fiercely protective. To many, this legal battle felt like the exact opposite of everything they stood for. Tracy herself reportedly acknowledged the painful irony. She recalled her father often saying, "Family comes first. Never let money destroy what matters." Those words now echo through tense conference rooms filled with lawyers and legal briefs. As the siblings battle over legacy, one figure remains at the center of it all: Nick Reiner. His composed demeanor and choice of a high-profile defense attorney have only intensified public scrutiny. And as the inheritance war deepens, the question grows louder. Can any legal victory undo the damage already done to a family built on love, now fractured by loss? With legal fees reportedly soaring past $2,000 an hour, one question has dominated public discussion. How could Nick Reiner afford a defense team of this caliber? He has no steady employment history, years of documented instability, and no obvious independent income stream. Yet he secured one of the most aggressive legal teams money can buy. Sources close to the case claim Nick's strategy is deliberate and singular. His defense will reportedly center almost entirely on mental health, not only as a factor in sentencing, but as a potential shield against the Slayer statute itself. If his attorneys succeed in arguing that he lacked full mental competence, the statute may not apply, meaning Nick could legally retain his 70% inheritance, estimated at roughly $140 million. That includes film copyrights, ongoing royalties, and the Brentwood mansion. This is where public outrage deepened. Some insiders believe Nick understood this legal framework long before the tragedy. They suggest he knew that a documented mental health diagnosis could serve as a loophole. one that might protect both his freedom and his inheritance. If true, it raises an unsettling possibility that what initially appeared as a catastrophic breakdown could also involve legal foresight. Investigators have reportedly traced portions of Nick's legal funding to assets he controlled prior to his parents' deaths: trust distributions, savings, and smaller holdings. If accurate, it suggests he may have positioned himself financially to survive exactly this kind of crisis. Psychologists remain sharply divided. Some view Nick as a deeply troubled individual shaped by addiction, illness, and emotional instability. Others argue that certain alleged behaviors appear too calculated to ignore. The line between illness and manipulation has blurred, leaving even experts conflicted over where compassion should end and accountability must begin. Meanwhile, Rob Reiner's legacy looms large over everything. His estimated $200 million fortune was built over decades, from All in the Family to founding Castle Rock Entertainment, the studio behind classics like The Shawshank Redemption, When Harry Met Sally, and A Few Good Men. His wealth was never just money, it was a lifetime of work meant to protect his family. Now that same legacy has become the fault line tearing them apart. What began as unconditional love has turned into a battlefield of law, grief, and unanswered questions. And as the case moves forward, the world is left asking, was Rob Reiner's compassion his greatest strength, or the tragedy that destroyed everything he tried to protect?